Hello and welcome to Real Hi-Fi Help. Let's take a look at the 3 best value USB cables. So notice that I've not tested all USB cables on the market. There's just a lot of cables out there and that are constantly being produced. So I don't really have a chance covering them all. There are also some really ridiculously high priced USB cables, and I also haven't tried all of those, but you can see how much I have tested. So I do have a pretty good reference, and note that digital cables are generally a lot more difficult to get sound improvement from compared to analog cables in general. So I think that later in the future, once we get to a certain standard that is more like my hi-fi friend with the Yamaha system, I think that once we get up to that streaming standard, this will become a lot more easy to deal with. Right now, there are only like a few percent of audio files where this video is really relevant for. So yeah, still, you could have a still relatively okay, good piece of gear. It could be a DAC, something like that, a streamer, where this is then, pretty important. So let's have a look at the most important ones that you guys will probably have to look at. So this is like the best value one that I've been able to find. Great value. It's like a meter for, I don't know, how many bucks is that? It's like $30 or something like that. So good value. It's just classy, retro, warm, organic type of sounds. Just has, a bit of everything. Normal USB cables are just so dead and empty and gray and like they're just blah, But again, you need a pretty good system in order to hear that, so you might not even know that you're missing out on anything because, yeah, you just need pretty good gear. But this is like a good value USB cable. So I wouldn't suggest that normal people go out and buy 2, 3, 500 buck USB cables and put it on their fancy gear. It most likely won't make a huge difference when we're talking about digital cables. There are some few times where you do notice some differences, but they're usually not dramatic differences like with power cables or other types of analog cables. So yeah, this is a good all-round cable to try when you're getting into some pretty decent stuff. And this is like the second important one, which is the Oyate Continental 5S V sound, and this is a really good one. It costs a lot of money, $300. Yeah. But I've heard this cable beats, quite a bit of USB cables that were in the couple of $1,000 area. So yeah, overall extremely good value, just really good structure, really clean sound, very natural. You don't get that a lot with USB cables, but very natural, great black levels, just fantastic structure. That like this is the one of the few times where I feel that Oyate has finally made a cable that is like top dollar, top value. They should really be proud. This is one of the few times where I really think that they hit a home run. So great, simply great. And you've got all these fancy USB cables. Sometimes, yeah, there is a slight difference, but it's still a USB cable. They don't make a huge difference on most source gear and DAC gear out there. We're still not at a level where the source gear is good enough to reveal that. So this is like the end destination of what I recommend if you're really into USB cables. Then you want to go with something like this. And I've actually heard that at a friend's place that you can get a cable that is much better than this, and you can get it like custom made for around the same price. But again, you know, what does that take in order to get to that level? I mean, it takes a crazy system that no one really has in the world, and it takes you using a lot of hundred and or thousands of bucks finding a guy who can make that, and you will most likely get cheated by people who want to earn a lot of money on you. So it's a huge risk. But I know a guy who actually succeeded with this, and he could hear that it got into a sound that had a lot more pressure, a lot more natural color, a lot more drama, just a lot more human qualities. But again, you know, who cares about that really? Because we're again at a level that doesn't officially exist in the world yet. It might exist 10 or 20 years after I've made this video, and then you can look at it and think like, okay, yeah, we need to do something about this. We need to get something that's better than this cable. But you know, those systems don't officially exist, so ignore that. If you have to go for an expensive OE8 cable that's a USB cable, then just go with this as like the end destination. I seriously don't recommend people trying all of these fancy HDMI, USB cables, and most other digital cables that cost several thousand of bucks, because they might be a lot better, but the problem is that our equipment is not good enough yet to reveal that detail. We really have to get a lot better on figuring out how to optimize our source components. Once that has happened, then of course there could be something on the market that costs 10 times more, that gives you probably 1.5 or 2 times more performance. But until then, I highly recommend that this is like the end destination of USB cables. Just my opinion, you can do whatever you want, but let's look at the third one, and that's just the normal USB cables. So this is actually the reason why I present this is because some systems, a lot of systems actually, are so bad that you don't want to put cables like these that are better on them, because you will just be able to hear how much your system sucks. So yeah, sometimes worse can actually make a better sound. So this is what I did to start with, and it was fine, you know, to start with. You know, you get sound, it functions, you can't really hear too much how bad it is, and you know, it keeps it safe because it doesn't reveal too much. So a normal USB cable that is typically not high speed, I don't know why I took one that was high speed, but that will be a good start, and you don't necessarily have to go for a cable that costs more than a couple of bucks to something as fancy as this. You won't necessarily be able to hear a difference. So I wanted to include that to make it fair, because this is what I did. This is what I considered to be relevant for most people out there. So yeah, I hope that helped you guys, and remember to like and subscribe.